The cracks in the relationship between Ken and Gypsy Rose Blanchard have been growing for a while now. What once seemed like a partnership with a promising future is now unraveling, and it's not hard to see why. Ken's frustrations are starting to surface, and it's clear that he's reached his breaking point. But this didn't happen overnight. The signs have been there for months, publicly, privately, and even subtly. Today, we're going to dive into the details that have led Ken to this moment, from the small frustrations that have built up over time to the deeper, more manipulative behaviors from Gypsy. This is a story of a man who's realizing he's stuck in a relationship where his voice doesn't matter, where his opinions are dismissed, and where he's constantly overshadowed by a partner who's more concerned with maintaining her public image than treating him with respect. One of the first clear signs of Ken's growing frustration came during their trip to San Francisco. On the surface, it seemed like a fun trip, a time to bond, to enjoy each other's company, and to prepare for the arrival of their baby. But if you looked closely, the cracks in their relationships were already beginning to show. There was a photo that Gypsy shared on her Instagram where they are seen walking together. Gypsy, as always, was smiling for the camera, putting on the facade that everything was perfect. But Ken looked like he didn't even want to be there. His face was tense, his body language stiff. He had one hand in his pocket and the other barely holding onto Gypsy's. There was no affection, no warmth. For someone who's about to become a father, you would expect him to be radiating excitement, but instead, he looked distant, disconnected. It wasn't just the photo though. Gypsy posted a video during the same trip, and it told an even clearer story. As they were walking together, Ken was way ahead of her, not even bothering to slow down or walk beside her. He wasn't holding her hand, wasn't even turning back to check on her. It's subtle, but it speaks volumes. This wasn't the behavior of a man who's excited about his relationship or even impending arrival of his child. This was a behavior of a man who's emotionally checked out.
Gypsy Rose recently posted a picture, and I want us to read it. Okay, you know what they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Now, I told you guys yesterday that Gypsy has been reaching out to Ryan, allegedly, telling Ryan that Ken is treating her like SHIT, and she feels like she made a mistake being with Ken, and she's sorry for what she did to Ryan. Now, I want you to look closely at this picture. Ken's body language is, he's giving her the type of hold that you'd give a buddy in a picture. Look at the way his shoulders are up, his stance. This is not a affectionate picture. There's very much distance between their body. And that's how all their pictures look. I think anyone that has really watched Gypsy Rose and Ken, you know that Ken is not into her. And honestly, I don't think he's really into women, period. And we already have been down that road and we know why. This is the way you'd hold your little brother in a picture, or your dad, or maybe a friend, not a lover.
And that's the thing. This isn't just about one photo, one video. It's a pattern. In public appearances, Ken consistently looks disengaged, treating Gypsy more like a casual acquaintance than a romantic partner. And the more we see these moments, the clearer it becomes that Ken is struggling to maintain any sense of emotional connection with her. But Ken's frustration didn't start in San Francisco. It's been building for a long time. And a big part of that has to do with how Gypsy and Bree have been controlling him, slowly but surely turning him into a puppet. It's not just about the relationship between Ken and Gypsy. It's also about how Bree plays into this dynamic, further complicating things. Let's take a look at a live session where Bree explicitly told Ken to stay away from anyone who doesn't agree with their narrative. Bree was clear. She didn't want Ken talking to anyone who might challenge their version of events. And Ken, in a moment of visible hesitation, complied. You could see it on his face. He didn't want to. He's not the kind of guy who avoids confrontation. In fact, in other situations, we've seen him try to stand his ground. But when it comes to Bree and Gypsy, it's a different story. They've managed to put him in a position where he feels like he has no choice but to go along with what they say. And Gypsy, she's no better.
You can only do so much. To me, I'm just trying to explain my perspective. If 99% of people don't want to hear it and don't agree, but maybe 1% might hear it and might agree, then mission accomplished, I guess. It's just, I'm just trying to plant a different perspective into the opposer's side, I guess. I don't know. I feel like
no, Kim, you're not doing anything wrong. I just
haven't had a chance to even really fully explain my circumstances. The few times I've ever been on his panel was like arguing around a specific point, like the cowboy thing or the Zora thing or whatever. Basically what I'm saying is I'm not like the kind of person who's going to shy away from a debate or a conversation with anybody, even the people that hate us the most, that I feel like would be a conversation would be totally worthless. You know, it's like you're so deep on your side that there's no way that I'm ever going to reach you with my voice at all. But the point is I'm not like shying away from talking to anybody. Like, I'm so confident in how I feel about Gypsy and how I feel about me and our life together and her past and our present and our future that it doesn't bother me to share how I feel with anybody.
During that same live session, she'd stepped in and publicly shut Ken down, stopping him from speaking. She didn't even try to hide it. It was a blatant display of control, and she did it in front of everyone watching the live. It's one thing to disagree in private, but to publicly humiliate your partner like that, it's hard to watch. And the worst part, Ken didn't argue, he didn't fight back, he just let it happen.
Oh, I feel like it was very because I watched the first time that Ken went on Morbid's live, and I watched the whole thing. I was there. I heard how well he handled himself. And I respect him so much for addressing the opposing side, as we want to call it. But I agree with you, Bree. I really feel like Ken has a major platform now with his social media having grown substantially, that he doesn't need to rely on any other content creator when he himself could be a content creator and have that power. And, we just had wrapped up filming with the previous season of our show. He has a TV show. He has major social media following now. He doesn't need to rely on anyone's social media to have a voice. And so I think that given the right time, the right space, the right opportunities that come his way to share his story of how we met, how our relationship is going, all of those details that he wants to share with people and in a sense, show them the light or the truth, he will be able to. Right now, it's just a complicated space and time and area right now. And I know how frustrating that could be, but just give it time and the right opportunities will come your way.
Well, I was going to say, Ken, thank you, Gypsy. I hope I'm not cutting you off.
Oh, you're fine.
I was going to say, if you, I think I did it again, girl. I'm sorry. Did I cut you off?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
What makes the situation even more complicated is Ken's vulnerable position. He's stuck in a relationship where he's financially dependent on Gypsy and her family. He doesn't have a stable job, and he's living with Gypsy's parents. That's a tough situation for anyone, but especially for a man who's trying to assert some level of independence.
Ken Urker does not have a job, and he does live with Gypsy Rose and her parents. Well, not her mom, because clearly she unalived her, but her stepmom and her dad. He went over there to ride out the hurricane about a month ago, and he's never left. He does still have his apartment, and she did go back to record her audiobook there. That was the only time they had been back since. Other than that, Ken has been living with Gypsy Rose, Kristie, and Rod.
Ken knows that living isn't an easy option. If he walks away, where does he go? What does he do? Gypsy knows this too, and it's part of how she's been able to maintain control over him. She knows how he doesn't have many options, and she's using that to her advantage. Take the live session where Gypsy was talking about her pregnancy. Ken tried to speak to contribute to the conversation, but Gypsy wouldn't let him. She kept talking over him, cutting him off, dismissing his thoughts as if they didn't matter. And this isn't a one-off incident. This is how Gypsy treats Ken on a regular basis. She doesn't respect him, doesn't value his input, and she's making it painfully clear that she's the one in control.
I think the funniest thing is, it's maybe it's just people that have never been pregnant before, for real, just don't get it. Because it's you literally, depending on the position of the baby, I could look bigger. If she's laying sideways, she could look, a different way.
No, I think it's just people that troll you for no reason.
It's
They just love it.
I have, I know that I look pregnant because I am me, so. But depending on what picture I'm in or whatever,
yeah, but
angle thing. Although I'm gonna start taking that as a compliment, because does anybody really want to be you look pregnant?
So do people think that we paid an actor to do a fake sonogram and put up fake pictures on the screen during?
Oh no, they think that's all fake.
We just hired a bunch of actors to do all that for us.
Oh, yours is January 26th. Congratulations!
But here's the thing. Ken isn't just frustrated with the situation, he's frustrated with how Gypsy is treating him. He's trying to hold on, trying to be patient, but it's becoming harder and harder to stay silent. When he's being disrespected like this, you can see it in his body language, in his facial expressions. Ken is done. He's tired of being treated like a child, tired of being controlled, and tired of being silenced. And while all of this is happening, there's another factor in play: Ryan. Gypsy has been keeping Ryan in the picture, even as she's stringing Ken along. Ryan has openly admitted that Gypsy still contacts him, that they still talk regularly.
She texted me and said, "Well, I still love you. Man, I miss you." You know, things like that. And I'm texting her like, "Hey, I miss you. I really wish you'd call me," or whatever. Da-da-da.
This isn't just gossip. This is coming straight from Ryan himself. It's clear that Gypsy isn't fully committed to Ken. She's keeping Ryan as her backup plan, just in case things with Ken fall apart. And the truth is, they're already falling apart. Gypsy is trying to have it both ways, keeping Ken around for now, while keeping Ryan on the sidelines, ready to swoop in when Ken finally has enough. And Ken knows it. On some level, he has to. He knows that Gypsy isn't being honest with him. He knows that she's still talking to Ryan, still keeping that door open, and yet here he is, stuck in a relationship where he's not respected, not valued, and not treated like any equal partner. Imagine the frustration of knowing that your partner is still in contact with her ex, still keeping that option open while you're doing your best to stay supportive, to stay committed. It's no wonder Ken's patience is wearing thin. But despite all of this, Gypsy is doing everything she can to maintain the illusion of a happy relationship. On social media, in live sessions, she's painting a picture of a perfect couple, a perfect family. She talks about their baby shower, their baby moon plans, trying to convince the public that everything is fine. But we can see the cracks in the facade.
I'm scared that I bring a certain level of drama to his life that I don't mean to bring. It's like my baggage. He could leave me right now, and it's completely out of my control. And that's scary. It was scary back then, and it's still scary now. But he has my heart, and I can't control that.
You worried that he'll leave you?
Yeah. I mean, I trust that he loves me. I trust that I love him. But that fear is there. And right now it's just like I'm happy again. And I don't want to do anything to mess it up.
Ken's silence, his lack of enthusiasm, his growing detachment, it's all there if you're paying attention. Gypsy might be fooling some people, but the truth is starting to become possible to ignore. Her constant attempts to control the narrative, to make it seem like everything is fine, are starting to wear thin. People are starting to see the truth, that Ken isn't happy, that he's frustrated, and that he is ready to move on. And no matter how much Gypsy tries to control the situation, the truth is starting to come out. So where does that leave Ken? He's stuck for now, but emotionally, he's already checked out. His public appearances, his lack of enthusiasm, his growing silence, all of these are signs that he's ready to move on. Ken has tried to be patient, tried to be supportive, but Gypsy's manipulative behavior, her constant control, and her lack of respect have pushed him to the limit. Ken knows that Gypsy isn't fully committed to him. He knows that she's keeping Ryan in the background, ready to step in if things with him fall apart. And he knows that Gypsy is playing both sides, trying to keep both men in her orbit. In the end, Ken's frustrations are no longer hidden. They're right there for the world to see. He's done, and he's ready to move on from Gypsy Rose Blanchard. The manipulation, the public humiliation, the lack of respect, it's all come to a head. And while Gypsy may be doing everything she can to keep him around, it's only a matter of time before Ken finds his way out. The question isn't if he'll leave, it's when. Ken's journey has been one of patience and endurance, but even the most patient man has limits. Gypsy might think she can control the narrative, but Ken is slowly taking back his power. And when he does, the truth about their relationship will finally come to light.